Does anyone in your family borrow luck? My own grandmother was a fortune siphoner. My sister-in-law resented that my grandmother refused to die, believing she was draining all the good fortune from her descendants. So she secretly poured herbal poison into Grandma's rice porridge. That night, my grandmother passed away in excruciating agony. Following the instructions of a spiritual master, our entire family had to sew all 5 of her facial orifices shut. They said doing so would ensure her soul suffered every punishment in the 18 levels of hell. The more agony Grandma endured, the more prosperous our family's destiny would become. Before the Lunar New Year, my grandmother suddenly became different. The old woman, who had always lived frugally, unexpectedly took me to the market. Not only did she sew me 3 new outfits, but she also bit her lip and bought herself a cheap floral padded jacket. On the way home, she bought me a hawthorn candy skewer. Little star, your parents said they'll visit us this year. Your eldest brother and sister-in-law are coming too. Are you happy? I picked the largest dried hawthorn fruit and put it into her mouth. Are you happy, Grandma? She smiled and gently stroked my head. Of course I am. They haven't been back in years. The village kids say Little Star is an orphan. This time, I'll make sure they see that Grandma's little star is loved too. I looked up, smiling brightly at her. If you're happy, Little Star is happy too. After saying that, I lowered my head and pouted indifferently. To be honest, I didn't miss them at all. My parents initially wanted a boy, and the village doctor even said the baby would be a son, which is why they had me. To their surprise, I turned out to be a girl. So, less than a month after I was born, they hastily dumped me with my grandmother in the countryside. In the past 12 years, I could count the number of times I'd seen them on one hand. The last time they came home was 5 or 6 years ago. Usually, they couldn't even bother to call. Why were they suddenly returning this year? At this thought, I instinctively clenched my hand. Grandma, unaware, was engrossed in planning delicious dishes for the New Year's Eve feast. Upon returning home, she immediately took off her new clothes, carefully put them away, then changed into her old padded jacket and started bustling about. She pasted glutinous rice cakes, slaughtered chickens and ducks, marinated cured meats, cleaned the small courtyard inside and out, and even specially cleaned her own room, saying it was for my eldest brother and sister-in-law. She took her quilt and mat, saying she would sleep with me. I felt a pang of sorrow and wanted to help her, but she sternly told me to go to bed and rest. What help can a child be? She even handed me a plate of fried pastries, telling me to sit at the table and snack. Time flew by quickly. But on the 28th day of the 12th lunar month, my parents arrived with my eldest brother and sister-in-law. The luxury car, which I'd only ever seen on TV, with its 4-ring logo, parked in the courtyard. My parents wore mink coats, and my eldest brother and sister-in-law carried designer bags, looking elegant but also cold. Sister-in-law, in particular, looked around with disdain, letting out heavy sniffs from her nose. Grandma seemed to have a premonition and rushed to help sister-in-law with her luggage. The countryside isn't like the city, dear. Come inside where it's warm. But sister-in-law pushed her hand away roughly. Don't touch me. What if you get it dirty? Can you even afford to replace it, Grandma? I heard you're a fortune siphoner. You're not trying to take this opportunity to steal my luck, are you? The atmosphere in the courtyard instantly froze, and my gaze turned cold. Indeed, there had been rumors in the village saying Grandma was a fortune siphoner. It was precisely thanks to this special ability that my parents' business boomed, turning them into city tycoons. Every time they faced difficulties or danger, they could turn misfortune into good luck. I never believed this. If Grandma was truly that powerful, why did she still wear such tattered clothes? She didn't even dare to eat meat regularly. Why did she have to live in this poor, wind-swept village? At this moment, Father spoke up. All right, everyone, come inside. It's almost New Year's. There's still a lot to do. For some reason, a chill suddenly ran down my spine. But Grandma happily welcomed everyone inside. As soon as they sat down, Grandma pushed me forward in front of them. Look, my dears, little Star has been very well behaved these past few years. She's always first in her class. You all chat. I'll go cook dinner. With that, she bustled into the kitchen. Father, hearing I excel in school, was slightly surprised but satisfied, praising me. Good, worthy of being my daughter. I replied indifferently. It's all thanks to Grandma's good teaching. The atmosphere froze again, and Father's expression darkened. Actually, I understood Grandma's intention. She thought I was old enough and couldn't stay in this small village forever. I needed to go out and see the world. She wanted my parents to take me to the city for school, but I didn't want to. If I left, Grandma would be even more hesitant to eat meat. While lost in thought, Grandma had swiftly prepared the feast. Let's eat. Chicken, duck, fish, and meat filled the table, exuding a delicious aroma. Everyone sat down in silence. What can we get? How we? Don't say. At the dinner table, Grandma tried to lighten the mood, proactively asking sister-in-law, Gwen, are you doing well these days? Is your work going smoothly, dear? We thought it was just small talk. But unexpectedly, sister-in-law suddenly slammed her bowl and chopsticks onto the table with a loud clatter. She said coldly, Not well at all. Kevin invested poorly and is deep in gambling debt with high interest. Last month, I got pregnant, but couldn't keep it. Some people are old and refuse to die, draining all the good fortune from their descendants. In my opinion, people should accept their age. Don't be so selfish. Her words were too clear. Father also spoke in a tone that was neither happy nor sad. Mother, you're almost 70 this year, aren't you? Once you're gone, please don't bother your descendants anymore. When you leave, I promise to arrange a grand funeral. All right? Grandma suddenly froze, nervously rubbing her hands, wanting to explain. It's not what you think, I'm not. Eldest brother interrupted her. Grandma, don't hide it anymore. I heard Father tell me that year he lost his investment. You locked yourself in your room for 3 days and 3 nights, and when you came out, your hair was completely white. After that, Father's business suddenly took a turn for the better. If that's not fortune siphoning, what is it? Now I am also facing difficulties. Can't you sympathize with me? If it weren't for you living so long and draining all my luck, I would have prospered long ago. I wouldn't be in such a state of losses and debts. Grandma's face turned ashen, her lips trembling, unable to speak. I couldn't stand it anymore and immediately shouted, "Get out! Our house doesn't welcome you anymore. Don't bully my grandma." Father immediately slapped me with a resounding smack. "Slap! You worthless brat! I'm your father. Who gave you the guts to speak to me like that?" Grandma, who was distressed, suddenly stood up and pulled me behind her, shielding me. "You haven't shown up in years, and now you're acting arrogant. Don't you dare touch little Star." That night, everyone parted ways in discord. The feast Grandma had prepared all day was left untouched on the table. In the middle of the night, I tossed and turned, too angry to sleep. On my 36th turn, Grandma held me close and soothed me. "Little Star, sleep soundly, dear, or you won't grow up fast." Her voice was choked, suppressed so as not to be discovered. My heart ached deeply. Hugging her tightly, I said sadly, "Grandma, don't listen to their nonsense. We'll live well, just the two of us. When I grow up, I'll earn a lot of money to support you." She smiled and gently patted me. "Don't worry, I'm not thinking about that. I still need to see little Star grow up, get married, and have children." The next morning, sister-in-law was unusually different, waking up early to cook. At the dining table, she proactively brought a bowl of porridge. "Grandma, yesterday was our fault. We behaved terribly. Please forgive us." Grandma, unsuspecting, brought it to her mouth, then suddenly frowned. "Why does this porridge have a pungent smell? What have you done?" Before she could finish her sentence, eldest brother rushed behind her, grabbed her neck, and forcefully pried open her mouth. Sister-in-law held the bowl of porridge and cruelly poured it into Grandma's mouth. "You old hag who refuses to die, if you're going to live so long, let us see you off." After a moment of shock, I screamed and lunged forward, trying to push the two of them away, but I was too small. "Hello." Eldest brother kicked me, and I fell to the ground. My parents rushed over, pinned me down, and slapped me twice across the face. Tears streamed down my cheeks and into my hair. I wailed hoarsely, "Don't kill Grandma." But nothing I said mattered. The bowl of porridge was quickly emptied into her mouth. Grandma and I, gasping for breath, were locked in the room. I used all my strength to help her onto the bed, tears and snot staining my face. She weakly raised her hand, wanting to wipe my face, but no matter how hard she tried, her wrinkled hand couldn't reach my cheek. She couldn't help but cry out in pain. The intense agony made her writhe on the bed. Her mouth and esophagus slowly began to ulcerate. I kicked the door repeatedly, wanting to run out and call for help, but the windows were tightly shut. I could only scream in vain. Every few hours, my parents and eldest brother and sister-in-law took turns checking if she had stopped breathing. By the second day, Grandma was barely clinging to life. She mumbled, "Water! Give me a sip of water before I go." I crawled to the door, my throat hoarse, as I pleaded, "Please, just give Grandma a sip of water." Mother's face appeared at the window, full of irritation. "She's about to die. Why bother with water? Die sooner and be free sooner." I stared at the person I called Mother and said coldly, "That year father liked a younger, prettier woman than you, and planned to divorce you, leaving you with nothing. Grandma herself traveled for tens of hours to stand up for you. Have you forgotten all of that?" Mother's face momentarily showed fright, and she angrily shouted, "That's old news. Why bring it up?" With that, she hastily left. Grandma lay weakly on the bed, calling, "Little star, come here. Comb my hair," and sobbed. "Yes, Grandma. Wait a moment. I'll get a comb right away. When you're better, I'll comb your hair every day." She feebly waved her hand. "No need. I have a comb. Use mine." She carefully took a comb from her inner pocket. This comb was very strange. It was neither jade nor bone. Its surface had a warm glow. My hands trembled as I took it, gently combing her white hair. Her hair was dry and difficult to comb, especially with my eyes blurred from endless tears. She gently took the comb back, let down my hair, and hummed softly as she combed. "One comb, peace and joy. 2 combs, everything you wish for. 3 combs, I only wish to give all the good fortune in the world to my little star." She used her last ounce of strength to tuck the comb into my chest. "I did well. Don't let your parents see it. I can't wait for you to grow up. I'm sorry for breaking my promise. I had planned to comb your hair on your wedding day. Consider this my wish fulfilled today. From now on, my little star will have smooth sailing. Remember to cherish your blessing." Before her words finished, her throat made a few gurgling sounds, each louder than the last, until finally, silence. Grandma was gone without even a sip of water. In the morning hall, my parents freely discussed the funeral arrangements. The spiritual master said we must immediately sew her 5 senses shut. That way, Grandma's soul will suffer all the punishments in the 18 levels of hell. The more agony she endures, the more prosperous our family's fortune will become. Eldest brother hesitated slightly. Among 100 good deeds, filial piety comes first. Will this harm our family's blessings? Father didn't care at all, waving his hand decisively. She wasn't your biological mother. Years ago, your father was a beggar who came here and was adopted by your grandmother. That's all. This doesn't count as unfilial. My hand holding the paper money trembled. I had never heard Grandma say that father wasn't her biological son. Father seemed to suddenly remember me. Take this girl to the storeroom first, lest she causes trouble and ruins everything for us. When we're on our way, bring her along. Mr. Gu likes young, blossoming girls like her. Kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Maybe Mr. Wo will invest a sum in our family. After saying that, ignoring my cries and pleas, Father unceremoniously locked me in the storeroom. Through the crack in the door, I saw them gathered around the coffin, using thick soles and needles to sew Grandma's eyes, ears, nose, mouth, and tongue shut. The crude, crooked stitches made her gentle face look very ferocious. The clear sky suddenly boomed with thunder, growing darker and more terrifying. My parents and eldest brother and sister-in-law couldn't help but shiver. Evening. As night fell, the storeroom was as cold as an ice cellar. I shivered from the cold. The only source of warmth was the comb in my arms. It radiated a gentle heat, and I couldn't resist taking it out to admire. As I stared, my eyes narrowed. Tomorrow, Grandma would be buried. I couldn't let her be buried with her 5 senses sealed. So, when everyone had fallen asleep, I quietly walked to a corner of the storeroom. There was a dog hole here that I had dug for half a day. I crawled through the hole and ran straight to the morning hall, intending to cut all the stitches before anyone noticed. Unexpectedly, as soon as I entered, I crashed into a tall, dark, hairy figure. I bounced back, falling heavily to the ground. Who's there? The morning hall was pitch black and silent. No one answered me. Instead, Father's wary voice rang out. Who just screamed? Check the morning hall. The funeral is tomorrow. Don't let anything happen. I instinctively covered my mouth. Startled, I had screamed too loudly, alerting Father. If Father discovered my intentions, I feared I wouldn't have another chance to enter the morning hall. But chaotic footsteps were approaching the morning hall. There was no time to escape. Just then, a hand covered my mouth. A second later, the morning hall door was violently pushed open. Father, holding a flashlight, swept it across every corner of the morning hall. Behind him was my mother, looking sleepy. Oh, my eyes widened as I watched them. Strangely, the flashlight beam swept over me many times, but my parents didn't seem to see me. Mother grumbled irritably. There's no one here, always suspecting nonsense. Before she finished, a resounding slap echoed. Father slapped Mother mercilessly and with great force. In less than 5 seconds, Mother's cheek visibly swelled, looking terrifying. Father's eyes were cold. Who gave you the guts to speak to me like that? I am the head of this family. Be careful, or I'll kick you out. Mother, stunned, covered her face. A second later, she seemed to go mad, lunging at Father, scratching him. I knew you were still secretly seeing that hussy, and now you dare to hit me? What did you promise your mother back then, huh? Mother seemed furious. Her sharp nails dug into Father's neck, leaving deep scratches from which blood immediately gushed. Father roared, Mother. You're already dead. No one will protect you anymore. I coldly watched the two of them fight. If Grandma were alive, she would surely defend Mother. Thinking this, I couldn't help but let out a cynical chuckle. The two fighting figures suddenly froze, trembling as they looked towards the coffin. The hand covering my mouth tightened. Only then did I come back to my senses. By the flashlight's beam, I struggled to look up. To my surprise, it was a refined man in a long blue robe, wearing a black fur cloak. My first reaction was like someone from an ancient drama. But seeing me look, he put a finger to his lips, signaling me to be silent. Mother, terrified, clung to Father's sleeve. Did Mother just laugh? Has she come back to claim our lives? Father gritted his teeth. What are you scared of? That little girl is still in our hands. That old monster loved her the most. If she dares to touch me, I'll take the girl's life to show her. My fingernails dug into my palms, my eyes filled with hatred. When the two left the morning hall, the man looked at me with interest. Is this the timid girl whom the blessed woman raised? What a coincidence. I didn't understand what he meant. I had never met him. let alone owed him anything. I looked at him warily, then anxiously glanced at the door. The man seemed to guess my thoughts. Don't worry. I've set up a formation. No one will hear anything. I breathed a sigh of relief and asked, "Who are you? Why are you in my grandma's mourning hall?" As I spoke, I tried to open Grandma's coffin lid. It was almost dawn. I had to remove the stitches as soon as possible, but the coffin lid was too heavy. I pushed with all my might, but couldn't budge it. I said, "Can you give me a hand?" I gritted my teeth, still pushing. The man frowned. "All right. Consider it repaying the blessed woman for helping you one last time. After this, we'll be even." With that, he easily opened the coffin. I quickly said thank you and looked at Grandma. Her 5 orifices were still tightly sewn. My heart ached. I found scissors and carefully removed the stitches, blowing gently as I did, my eyes red and choked with emotion. "Does it hurt, Grandma? I'll blow on it for you. It'll stop hurting in a little while." The man remained silent, and after a long moment, he spoke. "The blessed woman always said you were timid, but it seems you're quite brave." I said nothing. I was timid because I had someone to protect me. Grandma was once my invincible armor. Now, that armor had rusted, and the weakness could also become a weapon. After removing all the stitches, Grandma's face was still gentle, but I knew she would no longer smile and call me Little Star. Just then, a mournful howl echoed from the distant mountain. The howl seemed like a signal. Countless animal cries resounded throughout the mountain, one after another, endlessly. I looked out in confusion. The man spoke up. "It's the beasts weeping. The blessed woman was a good person. The birds and beasts in the mountains all owe her gratitude. Haven't you ever wondered why this remote village is so peaceful and leisurely year-round?" My eyes widened as I looked at him. The man sighed, sadly and gravely recounting. It turned out that Grandma wasn't a fortune siphoner as they claimed. She was a blessed woman, a rare sight in a century. The appearance of a blessed woman usually came with 10 great merits and required a pure heart, having committed no evil deeds for 10 lifetimes. Once a blessed woman appeared, she would bring blessings to those around her. This blessing wasn't about immense wealth or high status, but a long-lasting fortune that ensured those around her would be free from illness their entire lives. They would live comfortably in humble prosperity. At the same time, where a blessed woman appeared, spiritual energy would be abundant, benefiting all living creatures, which is why there were Menexulian cultivating into spirits, animals in the mountain. As for Grandma's hair turning white overnight to revive Father's business, the cost was the damage to her root of blessing. I was stunned, then subconsciously woke up. No wonder after that day, Grandma's health weakened. She would gasp for breath after just a few steps. By the time he finished speaking, it was already dawn. He looked at me thoughtfully. "The comb the blessed woman left you is a comb imbued with blessings. Before she died, she bestowed all her accumulated merits and blessings upon you. If it weren't for that, well, that was her choice. Remember to hide it well." After saying that, he waved his sleeve and was instantly in the courtyard. I didn't have time to be surprised, running after him and whispering, "Thank you for helping me. And when did we ever owe each other?" I don't remember, but I'm sorry. The man smirked, not answering my question directly. Yi Huai. My name is Yi Huai. We are even now. With that, Yi Huai vanished without a trace. These supernatural occurrences were happening before my eyes for the first time. Yet I felt no fear. The people who truly terrified me were sleeping soundly in the house. It was almost dawn. I had no intention of returning to the storeroom to wait for death. A life for a life. I would go to the police. I didn't have a phone. The only landline in the house had its wires cut, and I couldn't get father's phone. So I could only go to the village's general store to make a call. As I carefully opened the gate, a joyous shout rang out. "Mom, Dad, I'm going to be a father." "My wife is pregnant." Hurried footsteps immediately followed. Father rushed out, just seeing me standing at the gate. "Oh, he immediately flew into a rage and grabbed my collar. "You damn brat, where are you going?" In a flash, I, who had never lied, blurted out, "I'm going to feed the pigs." "The hungry pigs are making too much noise." Father's suspicion lessened, but his hand still didn't release me. "Let your mother go. You stay in the courtyard." At this moment, my brother excitedly ran out. "Dad, that old monster really was a fortune siphoner. She just died, and my wife is already pregnant. Her belly is pointy. It's definitely a boy." Father's face blossomed into a wide smile, repeatedly saying, "Good. This is excellent. Today our house has double happiness. After we bury that old monster, our family's fortune will only prosper further." Just then, sister-in-law screamed loudly, "I'm hungry. I'm hungry." "Aye, where's the food? Bring the food here." Her voice was piercing and strange, unlike her usual self. I seized the moment of chaos and quickly sneaked to the door. Sister-in-law was sitting on the bed, one hand rubbing her belly, muttering. She looked normal. But as I was about to turn away, she suddenly looked up and grinned at me, her mouth corners seemingly pulled up by strings, the smile not reaching her eyes. Her deep, dark eyes exuded an eerie, chilling aura that was truly terrifying, but it seemed only I noticed that sister-in-law wasn't well. They quickly brought all the delicious food to sister-in-law, even the meal Grandma had cooked before she died. Strangely, no matter how much sister-in-law ate, she kept crying out that she was hungry, and her belly swelled like a balloon. When she sat down, her belly touched the bed surface. Only then did everyone panic. "Dad, my wife's belly." Brother hadn't finished speaking before Father snapped and interrupted him. "It's all because the burial isn't complete. Hurry up and bury her, and everything will be fine." In the midst of everyone's panic, I quickly slipped out. Out of the gate, I ran like mad towards the general store at the head of the village. Uncle Vincent, the shop owner, wasn't up yet, rubbing his eyes irritably. "Little Star, why are you so early, child? Doesn't your house have a phone?" "I gave him the last bits of change Grandma had given me." "Please, call the police." "Hello, I want to report a crime. Someone killed my grandma." Suddenly, a strong force snatched the receiver. My heart sank, thinking Father had chased me. Unexpectedly, the person who snatched the phone was Uncle Vincent. Yeah. My eyes widened in confusion. Uncle Vincent, normally kind, now looked fierce as he spoke into the phone. "I'm sorry, officer. My granddaughter is addicted to detective dramas and made a wild call. Yes. I'll teach her a serious lesson. Sorry for the trouble." Uncle Vincent hung up the phone and grabbed me. I didn't understand why. Normally, everyone respected Grandma. Why was no one standing up to help clear her name now? Uncle Vincent dragged me back home and threw me at Father. "Your girl here wanted to call the police." I stopped her. "Kids don't know anything. This matter concerns the fate of the entire village. I can't let her cause trouble." After Father slapped me, I finally understood. It turned out that after I was locked in the storeroom yesterday, Father had spread rumors throughout the village that Grandma was suffering a backlash from fortune siphoning and was at risk of becoming a malevolent spirit. To prevent her from harming the village, her 5 senses had to be sealed, and she had to be buried. The villagers, excessively superstitious, panicked and feared she would indeed cause harm. So they all nodded in agreement. Now, the entire village was an accomplice. No one would help me. I stood there, watching all the villagers swarm to help Father. Someone spat into Grandma's coffin. "Old demon, even in death, you won't rest." My eyes burned. I wanted to rush forward and fight, but I was pinned to the ground, unable to move. Father used his thick-soled boot to lift my chin. "I need to talk. Look closely. This is the consequence of defying me." With everyone's help, the burial would be quickly completed. But then an incident occurred. The coffin seemed to be stuck tightly to the ground. It couldn't be lifted. Inside, there was a thumping sound, as if someone was hitting the coffin lid. The scene fell silent. Someone trembled and said, Could the corpse be alive?" Father glared at the coffin for a moment, then spat. "Don't want to lie in the coffin, huh? Fine. Then drag the corpse out and throw it straight into the grave." With that, he used his strength to open the coffin lid. In a cloud of dust, Grandma's serene face was revealed. Father stared at her face, noticing that the stitches had been removed. He turned and snarled at me. "You just wait." Then he took a needle and thread, intending to sew her up again. But as he prepared to pierce the needle, a clap of thunder made everyone jump. Father gritted his teeth, held his hand, and brought the needle and thread closer to Grandma, and thunder boomed again. This repeated several times, and the crowd began to whisper. "What's happening? Is it divine punishment?" Father's face turned ashen. He hesitated for a moment, then jutted his chin towards me. "Are you going to do it?" I gave a cold laugh and turned my face away. Father stepped forward and squeezed my cheek tightly. "If you do this, I won't hand you over to Mr. Go. Otherwise, when you go to the city, you'll regret it." Hearing this, I clenched my hands. "Father, Kevin," laughed, handing me the needle and thread. After a moment of hesitation, I reached out and took it. Immediately after, I gathered all my strength and plunged the needle into Father's chest. "Go to hell!" Father shrieked, falling to the ground. But his winter coat was too thick. Even the long needle only pierced his skin. This action ignited his fury. He grabbed my collar and slammed me against the coffin. The force was so great that I closed my eyes, both scared and hopeful. If I die, will I see Grandma? Yeah, but the pain didn't come. Instead, father suddenly fell, face down. A gentle breeze brushed my cheek, accompanied by a familiar whisper. So troublesome. This really is the last time I help you. It was Hawaii. I instinctively looked around, but I was shocked by the scene before me. I only saw the rustling of trees and grass around our courtyard, as if something was approaching. The villagers also panicked and gathered together. Immediately after, a black bear emerged from the bushes, its red mouth open wide. It let out a roar and lumbered into the courtyard. The villagers' screams rose ceaselessly, but this was just the beginning. More and more wild animals gathered. There was a sika deer with giant antlers, elegantly bowing its head before Grandma's coffin. There was a 5-meter-long python coiling around the coffin as if guarding it. There was a large pack of wolves, led by a white wolf, weeping softly. I couldn't hold back my tears. Even animals knew how to be grateful, while demons ran rampant in the human world. Seeing this, the villagers began to voice their doubts. I heard that those protected and bowed to by 100 beasts are not ordinary people. Have we been used? The doubts grew louder, and father's face also turned quite pale. Then he grabbed an axe and swung it at the coffin. Get out! All of you, get out! Everyone was terrified by father's insane behavior, scattering like a broken heart. But the wild animals continued to circle the courtyard. Whenever he tried to approach Grandma, they blocked him. Just as father was cursing, eldest brother's agonizing scream suddenly rang out. A blood-soaked figure stumbled out. It was eldest brother. He clutched his face, his words unclear. Wen's gone mad. Only then did everyone clearly see that a large chunk of meat had been bitten off one side of my brother's cheek, covered in blood. Mother followed behind, as if terrified. Through mother's unclear explanation, we finally understood what had happened. It turned out sister-in-law kept crying out that she was hungry, and all the food in the house was gone. Mother went out to buy groceries, leaving eldest brother with sister-in-law dot on dot. Unexpectedly, while he was in the restroom, sister-in-law sneaked into the pigsty. She plunged her head in, eating the pig slop. Country pigs are very fierce. Seeing someone stealing their food, they opened their mouths and bit sister-in-law's nose, pulling violently. Half of her nose was torn off. But sister-in-law seemed to feel no pain. She was thrown out of the pigsty, then saw a bucket of thin porridge nearby. She lunged at it and began to gulp it down. It was at this moment that eldest brother found her. He saw the scene clearly and quickly pulled her away. Are you crazy? That's porridge with herbal poison. Spit it out. Sister-in-law seemed to regain lucidity for a moment, tears streaming down her face as she gestured frantically at him. Help me! There's a ghost here. There's a ghost. Eldest brother froze, and sister-in-law seemed to lose control again. She groaned, so hungry, and lunged, biting his face, tearing off a chunk of his flesh. When we found her, she was biting and tearing, grinning maniacally at us. The herbal poison had begun to take effect. Her throat began to ulcerate, her voice unclear. Mother trembled. Oh no! Now what? Father, nothing is going right today. He has lost all reason. She definitely won't survive. Lock her in the storeroom. Wait for her to stop breathing on her own. Take eldest son inside to bandage him first. After making arrangements, he spat a mouthful of saliva as if venting his anger. Truly troublesome. Outside the courtyard, a voice suddenly rang out. "My friend, what's got you so angry?" Father saw the newcomer, and his face suddenly brightened. "Taoist Master's son, you've finally arrived. With a spiritual master here, we don't have to fear this old demon causing trouble anymore." The newcomer wore a Taoist robe, held a fly whisk. His face was sharp like a monkey's, and his eyes were cunning like a rat's, gleaming with deceit. Father, as if meeting his savior, recounted everything that had happened in the past few days. Taoist Master's son seemed unfazed. "With me here, you can rest assured." With that, he opened the gourd hanging at his waist, and a pungent odor immediately spread. The animals in the courtyard seemed frightened and left one by one. Father was overjoyed, praising him endlessly, then probed. "My son is still in the room." Taoist Master's son waved his hand, appearing unconcerned. "A small matter. Let me ask you this. Did the fortune siphoner leave you anything? For example, a comb?" My heart suddenly tightened, and I listened intently. Father was taken aback by the question. "A comb? What comb?" Taoist Master's son said nonchalantly. "It's nothing major. But now that old woman refuses to rest in peace, it's all because of that comb. Just let me take it back and worship it before the ancestral tablet, and it can avert disaster and bring blessings." Father was not easily fooled. He pondered, frowning. "You're not trying to trick me, are you? Those two combs are treasures." With that, his eyes shifted to me. "When that old monster died, only this girl was by her side. It must be on her." I stood still without expression, letting them search my pockets, but they found nothing. Father angrily shouted, "You ungrateful brat! Tell me where you put it." I looked up, glaring at him with contempt. Just as Father Kevin was about to erupt in anger and make a move, eldest brother's scream suddenly echoed from outside the courtyard. Everyone rushed out, astonished to find sister-in-law madly attacking eldest brother. Seeing us, she even looked up and cackled. Mother trembled and said, "There's a dog hole in the corner of the storeroom." She dug it wide enough to crawl out. A thrill of satisfaction ran through me. Just then, eldest brother's agonizing scream suddenly ceased. Father went closer to look. My brother had stopped breathing, his body covered in horrific wounds. Sister-in-law's face was covered in blood, the ulcerations on her throat spreading to her skin. She gave one last cackle, and then stopped breathing. A second later, an earthy yellow shadow shot out from her body. It was clearly a golden ferret. It ran up the courtyard wall, stood upright like a human, bowed 3 times to Grandma, then cackled at us again and vanished into the night. Mother's cries of lament rang out. I didn't know if she was crying for her lost son or for her only support being gone, or when that other woman would take her place. But Father's face showed no sadness. He turned to Taoist Master Son. "Things are getting weirder and weirder. Dealing with the bodies quickly is the best course of action. We can discuss the comb later." Taoist Master Son hesitated for a moment, then finally nodded. Taoist Master Son's proposed method was the serpent's devouring punishment. According to him, at this point, don't think about good fortune anymore. Preserving one's life is paramount. He carefully released a two-headed snake about 2 meters long from the basket on his back. The snake was as thick as a child's arm, pitch black all over, covered in slime, and exuded a foul smell. Most strangely, the snake had 2 heads. One had a lump like a tumor. The other had blood-red pupils, looking incredibly horrified. Taoist Master Sun drew a strange formation around the coffin and then released his grip. The two-headed snake slithered down with lightning speed. My parents couldn't help but retreat 3 steps. Taoist Master Sun smiled. Don't be afraid. This snake only attacks when it smells blood, and it cannot leave the formation I drew. After saying that, he licked his lips excitedly, muttering in an extremely low voice. If I can get the Blessed Woman's comb, it might help it transform into a dragon. Then I will have the only 2-headed dragon in the world. All my plotting for so long will not have been in vain. Perhaps he was too excited, or he didn't pay attention to me. I heard every word he said clearly. A surge of hatred welled up within me. As the two-headed snake was about to reach Grandma, I suddenly spoke. Don't you want to know where the comb is? I put it on Grandma. The atmosphere in the courtyard froze. Father and Taoist Master Sun looked at each other, their eyes filled with greed. Father was still wary of the two-headed snake, but Taoist Master Sun was not afraid. He checked his body for wounds, then rushed straight to the coffin. Father was unwilling but didn't dare to get close to the snake. He hesitated for a moment, then forcefully pushed Mother. You go get Mother's things back. Mother, unable to react, was pushed into the formation. She screamed in fear, but was cursed and beaten by Father, forced to slowly approach the coffin despite her terror. At this moment, Taoist Master Sun had reached the coffin, and Mother also arrived. Both searched Grandma's pockets. Suddenly, both froze, their hands pressed against her right pocket, looking up at each other. Cruelty gleamed in Taoist Master Sun's eyes. Suddenly, his left hand swung up, a flash of light, and in his hand was a sharp needle that swiftly grazed Mother's arm. Before a drop of blood could fall, he forcefully pushed Mother away. Mother fell right in front of the two-headed snake. The snake, as if smelling blood, suddenly became excited, opening its mouth and biting her artery. Blood gushed out, soaking the ground. The snake venom spread through her body, causing her to writhe in agony. She raised her hand to beg Father for help, but only saw his relieved face, as if to say he had finally gotten rid of her. Finally, her blurred, hopeless gaze fixed on the coffin, a single tear rolling down her cheek. I didn't know if it was from pain or regret. At the same time, Taoist Master Sun raised the comb high and laughed loudly. Ah ha 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 ha! Finally, I have it. I have the comb of blessings. My friend, you truly are the good son of the Blessed Woman. If you had treated her well from the beginning, not just for 3 or 5 generations, your descendants would also enjoy blessings. Unfortunately, now it's all mine. On Father's face, a fleeting expression of surprise and regret appeared, then was overshadowed by greed. Taoist Master Sun sneered, called the two-headed snake, and intended to kill Father as well. Unexpectedly, as it passed Mother's body, something unexpected happened. Whether it was a post-mortem spasm or an unquenchable hatred, Mother's hand suddenly clenched, grasping Taoist Master Sun's ankle. He couldn't react in time, falling to the ground. He intended to get up and curse, but suddenly froze. The two-headed snake silently appeared above his head, its two heads staring intently, a drop of saliva falling onto his face. Taoist Master Sun instinctively wiped his face, but only saw blood. He stared in horror. Next to him was a sharp, blood-stained stone. It turned out that when he fell, his face scraped against the stone, tearing a gash. Before he could react, the two-headed snake lunged. Ah! His agonizing screams were incessant. In a flash, Taoist Master Sun's face was bitten and mangled, a bloody mess. Ah, crack! The cone of blessings fell to the ground as he stopped breathing, landing at my feet. I picked it up and handed it to Father. Here, Dad. Grandma's comb. He laughed loudly as he took it, rubbing it and saying, "Good. Truly a good daughter. Don't worry." That night, I bought a bottle of good wine and a few dishes. Father cautiously used a silver needle to test for poison. Seeing the needle tip clean, he ate and drank with peace of mind. Full and satisfied, he ordered, "Go get Taoist Master Sun's luggage. I want to see if there's anything useful." How exactly does one use the comb of blessings? I obeyed, bringing Taoist Master Sun's luggage to him. Seeing Father engrossed in rummaging through it, I spoke up. "Are you cold, Dad? I'll light the stove to make it warmer." Father gave a perfunctory nod. I carried a pile of charcoal and stuffed it into the stove. The room immediately became much warmer. Father sighed contentedly, lay down comfortably, lifted his legs, and played with the comb in his hand. I lowered my head and walked out. Before leaving, I locked the room door. I didn't return to my room to rest, but sat waiting in the cold courtyard. A long while later, agonizing screams echoed from the room. I smirked with satisfaction, closing my eyes and imagining the scene inside. In Taoist Master Sun's basket, I had hidden a snake egg. The weather was too cold for the snake egg to hatch easily. So, out of filial piety, I lit the stove to warm Father. When the snake egg hatched, Father must still have been dreaming of the good days to come, until he discovered a two-headed snake crawling next to him. Perhaps even then he might have been lucky enough to think he had no wounds. So the snake wouldn't attack him, but he had forgotten. That night, in the morning hall, Mother and he fought, Mother's fingernails raking across his neck, leaving a bleeding wound. Therefore, the two-headed snake mercilessly injected its venom into him. The screams in the room grew weaker. Father begged, "Little star, I'm your father. Save me. Can you save me?" I didn't want this either. It was all that Taoist Master Sun who tricked me. He said Grandma had drained all our good fortune. I cut him off without mercy. You all blamed Grandma for all your misfortunes and failures, but you didn't know your whole family is rotten to the core. The agonizing cries in the room gradually subsided, returning to silence. I took a deep, deep breath, savoring the sweet taste of revenge. But the very next second, tears unexpectedly fell. I didn't want this. Grandma wouldn't like a granddaughter like this. Really, what hurt most was that no matter how wicked and bloodthirsty I became, Grandma couldn't turn back smile and call me little star anymore. A gentle breeze rustled, and Yi Huai appeared on the treetop. He looked at the chaotic scene in the courtyard and once again blurted out, "All right, I'll clean up for you one last time." With that, he raised his hand, and the two-headed snakes that were slithering turned into black smoke, disappearing without a trace. Afterwards, he gathered all the bodies except Grandma's and burned them to ashes. Finally, he sadly walked to Grandma's coffin, bowing his head in silence. I looked at him and suddenly asked, if I don't need the comb of blessings, does Grandma have a chance to revive? Yi Huai frowned. "Do you know that the blessings in that comb are enough to protect you for 3 generations of peace and health? You won't be rich or noble, but your entire life will be free of worries." "I don't care," I said. "So what? It's not mine. I don't need it. I only need Grandma by my side." Yi Huai was silent for a moment, then said, "The Blessed Woman cannot truly be revived, but perhaps you will meet again, as long as..." The rest was too soft. I couldn't hear clearly and couldn't help but ask, "As long as what?" Yi Huai looked up at me. "Nothing. I will come to find you tomorrow at noon." With that, he turned and vanished. I sat alone, watching Grandma almost the entire night, then cremated her. The ashes I carefully placed into a small jar. I packed my few belongings, hugging the jar to my chest. Grandma wanted me to go to university to see the outside world, so I would take her with me. At noon, the next day, I sat, hugging my knees on the rooftop, taking one last look at this cold village. I suddenly realized that the weather hadn't been rainy or windy for a long time. This village, which was originally fresh and pleasant all 4 seasons, rarely had dark, gloomy clouds. Yi Huai's voice rang out behind me. This village was originally protected by the Blessed Woman. Now, it has begun to decline. The villagers will no longer enjoy the leisurely life they once had. They will have to work twice as hard to live well. I turned to look at Yi Huai, surprised to find that he had changed out of his ancient long robe and was wearing a suit. He handed me a glowing soft jade orb. I took it, looking at him puzzled. He pointed to the orb and said, "Keep it with the comb." I did as he said, astonished to find that as soon as the orb touched the comb, it turned into a ray of light, swiftly burrowing into the comb. The comb became even shinier. I could feel a faint thumping inside, as if a heart was beating. "Yi Huai," said softly, "keep it with you. Nurture it carefully. Do many good deeds every day. Accumulate merits and blessings. Perhaps when the time is right, you will meet again." I lightly squeezed my fingers and suddenly said, "I know who you are now." Yi Huai's face instantly darkened. I said to myself, I've never seen a pagoda tree in the village, but Grandma always managed to pick the freshest pagoda tree flowers, making me pagoda flower cakes, jams, and rolls. "So, are you that pagoda tree?" Yi Huai was annoyed. "Yes, you glutton. And the Blessed Woman indulged you, picking so many of my flowers to make food. The most annoying part is she never shared a single piece with me." With that, Yi Huai suddenly fell silent, seeming lost in memory. He would never forget. When he cultivated into a spirit and faced his tribulation, enduring 9 heavenly lightning bolts, barely clinging to life, The Blessed Woman climbed the precarious cliff every day, meticulously caring for him. After he recovered, he proudly told the Blessed Woman, "I don't like owing favors. Once our debts are settled, we will no longer be connected." The Blessed Woman never repaid evil with evil. Until a few years later, the Blessed Woman shyly twisted her hands. "I hope you can pick some of your flowers for me to make pagoda flower cakes for my granddaughter, all right?" Yi Huai would always grit his teeth and let her pick the tree bare. Actually, he also really wanted to taste the Blessed Woman's cooking. One time, the Blessed Woman shyly said, "Thank you. Why don't you try a piece too?" Yi Huai was about to eagerly agree. The Blessed Woman shook her head hesitantly. "No, no. For you to eat your own flowers, it's too cruel." Yi Huai seethed, thinking, next time, I must make her share with me. But there was no next time. Yi Huai and I left the village. He said I needed a household registration and a guardian for school. He would be my guardian until I turned 18. We walked on the rugged mountain road. Yi Huai kept muttering, "This is truly the last time I repay a favor. After this, even if I die, I won't bother with you anymore." I suddenly said, "Yi Huai, thank you." Yi Huai waved his hand. "A small matter. Just substituting for you at parent-teacher meetings." I shook my head and said seriously, "I'm not talking about that. I'm thanking you for your jade orb. You really didn't have to do that." Yi Huai immediately held his breath. A divine artifact exchanged for a sliver of life. How could it be easily obtained? It must have been Yi Huai's 1,000 years of cultivation. I couldn't help but ask, "Will you die?" Yi Huai was silent for a moment, just like when we first met, answering not with a direct reply. "This human world is too boring. I've seen enough." I lightly squeezed the comb, turned my head to look at the distant village, and couldn't help but recall last night. In Taoist Master Sun's luggage, I found an ancient book recording dark magic. According to the book, I trapped the souls of my parents and eldest brother and sister-in-law in a demon formation, as bait for the devils. They would be gnawed at by devils for generations to come, unable to find peace. If Grandma were alive, would she be disappointed in me? She often said that the world doesn't lack justice, righteousness, and kindness, but I didn't think so. In places where sunlight doesn't reach, what's wrong with being an evil exterminator yourself?